Chosen one, a government official is preparing to make an arrest connected to your own bloodline. You may not feel it in your conscious mind yet, but your spirit has been sensing the shift for weeks, an invisible tightening in the air, a pressure building in the unseen, a quiet storm forming behind the scenes. Something has been moving toward you with purpose, not to harm you, but to correct what has been wrong for far too long. And now, the one who stole from you is about to face justice. The universe is not whispering anymore. It is clearing its throat, stepping into the room, and making itself known. You are watching the final pieces fall into place for a moment you didn't think you'd ever live to see. For years, you carried wounds that were never acknowledged, wrongs that were never corrected, betrayals that were never spoken aloud outside of your own heart. You learned to navigate life with holes in your spirit that you didn't ask for, cracks in your pathway that someone else created. You endured the kind of pain that should have broken you, the kind of confusion that should have drowned you, the kind of injustice that should have made you bitter. But somehow you held on. Somehow you stayed soft. Somehow you kept your integrity while someone with your same blood was working behind the scenes against you. That is why this moment is arriving. That is why this long slumbering wheel of karma has begun spinning with unstoppable force. You earned this. You survived for this. You stayed steady for this. Right now, without you lifting a single finger, the universe is balancing the scales. Behind government walls, behind closed doors, behind frosted glass conference rooms, conversations are happening with your name attached. Questions are being asked about events long buried. Files with your family's surname on them are being pulled from archives. Financial records are being cross-examined. Statements are being compared. Old documents, old signatures, old dates, things you forgot or didn't know existed, are being reviewed by people with authority, people who do not care about bloodlines or excuses, people who care only about truth. And the truth is rising like smoke through cracks in a door. It is unavoidable. It is undeniable. It is divine. You are not witnessing chaos. You are witnessing divine precision. The kind of precision that only happens when the universe has had enough. When the ancestors who watched you suffer decide to stand up. When the spiritual realm says, now. Not later. Now. The first tremor has already happened. Maybe you felt it in a dream, a sudden intuition, a strange moment of clarity where something inside whispered, something is shifting. That was the beginning. That was the spiritual notification before the physical event. And now, the physical event is unfolding step by step. Your family member, the one who played you, robbed you, deceived you, underestimated you, has no idea how close justice is. They can feel something, yes. A pressure in their chest when they wake up. A nervousness they can't explain. A heaviness behind their eyes, like they are being watched. They think it's stress. They think it's fatigue. They think it's coincidence. But deep down, their soul knows the truth. The season of consequence has arrived. What they took from you did not disappear. What they hid is resurfacing. What they destroyed is returning to them tenfold. They stole from someone divinely protected, and that is never a harmless act. That is a spiritual crime layered on top of a physical crime, and both realms are responding. The universe has a long memory, longer than human minds, longer than legal systems. It remembers your tears. It remembers your confusion. It remembers the nights you blamed yourself for things that were never your fault. It remembers the prayers you whispered when no one listened. And it remembers every intention behind every action committed against you. That's what's surfacing now. Intent. Motive. Greed. The hunger for what belonged to you. The arrogance of believing they could get away with it. Time doesn't erase crimes. Time matures them. Time gives them roots. And now, those roots are pushing up through the ground, revealing everything they tried to bury. The official preparing this arrest is not acting randomly. This is not coincidence. This is alignment. This is the universe placing the right person in the right role at the right moment. This official is someone who doesn't look the other way, someone whose intuition is sharp, someone who has seen enough cases to know when something smells wrong. They are feeling guided, driven, pulled toward truth like a magnet. Every document they examine makes the picture clearer. Every contradiction makes the puzzle lock together. Every detail strengthens the resolve to pursue the case until the end. And as this unfolds, something powerful is happening for you. A shift. A release. A rebalancing. You are stepping into a timeline where vindication is no longer a far-off dream. It is a current event, a developing story, a divine correction in progress. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to call anyone, confront anyone, dig for information, or try to get involved. Everything is already happening without your involvement, because you were never meant to fight this battle physically. Your role was spiritual. Your assignment was endurance. And you completed it. Think of how long you waited for accountability, not out of revenge, but out of fairness. Think of how you wondered whether justice would ever come, whether the truth would ever be seen, whether the scales would ever tilt back in your favor. Think of every moment you felt powerless while someone else lived comfortably off what was not theirs. Those days are over. The story is reversing. The energy is flipping. The one who walked confidently in stolen blessings is now trembling under the weight of their own choices. This is not a moment of cruelty. This is a moment of correction. And you, chosen one, are witnessing the power of divine timing. Not fast. Not slow. Perfect. When the universe restores, it restores with accuracy. When it exposes completely. When it corrects without missing a detail. And you are being restored in ways that will make your spirit exhale for the first time in years. You are being lifted out of the role of the overlooked one and placed into the role of the vindicated one, the protected one, the one the universe rises up for. Right now, the family member who took from you is being spiritually disarmed. Their confidence is crumbling. Their ability to lie convincingly is fading. Their intuition is warning them that something unstoppable is approaching. They feel the cold breath of truth on their neck. They feel the ground shifting under their feet. They feel the weight of the consequences catching up. They may look calm on the surface, but inside, panic is rising. Their soul knows what the mind is trying to hide. And yet, this moment isn't about them, it's about you. It's about your healing, your restoration, your elevation. You are stepping into one of the most powerful phases of your life, where everything taken is returned, everything hidden is revealed, and everything broken is repaired. You are not being saved, you are being honored. You are not being rescued, you are being avenged. You are not being compensated, you are being restored. This arrest, this investigation, this unraveling, it's not punishment for the sake of pain. It's a message from the universe, a message to you that says, you were always seen. You were always protected. You were always destined to rise. The one who stole from you is about to face justice, not because you demanded it, but because divine law is real. Because truth has a lifespan longer than lies. Because karma has perfect aim. Because what was done in darkness must eventually be brought to the light, especially when the one harmed is chosen. This is your moment of divine vindication. The storm isn't coming for you, it's coming for the one who created it. And as their world shakes, your world steadies. As their foundation cracks, yours strengthens. As their truth collapses, your truth ascends. You are walking into a higher reality, a cleaner path, a story finally aligned with your soul's integrity. Chosen one, prepare yourself. Not for chaos, but for clarity. Not for destruction, but for elevation. Not for fear, but for freedom. The universe has stepped onto the stage, and nothing happening now can be stopped. The one who stole from you is about to face justice, and you are about to witness the power of divine timing unfold in real time. Justice is not on the way. Justice is here. They don't even realize the net is closing, fast. You can feel it before they can, because your spirit is tuned to shifts that others overlook. You sense the tightening of the air, the subtle change in spiritual atmosphere, the vibration that always comes before divine justice steps into the physical realm. But the one who wronged you, the one who moved with arrogance and entitlement, the one who thought their choices would never catch up, they remain blind to the signs. They wake up every day believing they still have control, still have protection, still have time. But time is the very thing collapsing around them now. They don't see it yet, but the walls are contracting, the space for escape shrinking, the illusions dissolving. The season of consequences has begun, and consequences do not ask for permission before arriving. Right now, while they go about their routine, checking their phone, sipping their morning drink, scrolling through distractions, they have no idea that their name is already moving through hands of authority. Like the air is thicker, like shadows are longer, like silence is louder. That heaviness is the net. That silence is the breath before the blow. That shadow is truth standing right behind them. What they don't understand is that their spiritual immunity expired long ago. The grace period they enjoyed wasn't grace, it was patience. Divine patience. Universal patience. Ancestral patience. The cosmos gave them a window to correct their actions, to confess, to make amends, to choose a different path. But they chose deception again. They chose greed again. They chose arrogance again. And choices always compound. Energy always accumulates. Consequences always mature. They thought getting away with something once meant getting away with it forever. But karma doesn't forget, and neither does the universe. And while the net closes around them, something else is happening, something powerful, something sacred, something meant for you. The same moment their world shrinks, yours expands. The same moment their illusions crack, your clarity sharpens. The same moment their protection dissolves, your protection strengthens. The same moment their lies collapse, your truth rises. You are stepping into a season where everything that was hidden from you becomes visible, everything that was taken from you becomes restored, everything that was withheld from you becomes released. You are not just watching their downfall, you are walking into your elevation. They don't realize that while they were plotting, you were growing. While they were scheming, you were healing. While they were manipulating, you were strengthening. While they were investing in deceit, you were investing in resilience. They don't realize that the net closing around them is a direct response to the purity of your heart, the endurance of your spirit, the integrity you maintain through every injustice. You didn't become bitter. You didn't become vengeful. You didn't become destructive. You stayed aligned. And alignment attracts justice. Alignment invites restoration. Alignment triggers karma in your favor. The one who set the trap for you is now the one standing inside the trap they unknowingly built for themselves. The one who thought they were above consequences is now surrounded by them. The one who thought you were powerless is now powerless themselves. They have no idea how quickly everything is about to shift. They cannot see the speed. They cannot see the acceleration. They cannot see the energy closing in like a whirlwind. But you can feel it. Your spirit can feel it. Your intuition can feel it. Every part of your being recognizes that the chapter is ending and the new one is beginning. This is not revenge. This is correction. This is not chaos. This is alignment. This is not cruelty. This is balance. And you, the one who endured the injustice, will witness the unfolding with clarity, peace, and spiritual confirmation. The net is closing. Fast. And nothing can stop it now. You were supposed to be taken care of. That was the plan. Long before everything twisted into chaos, long before the betrayals, long before the lies and the manipulation, there was a path laid out for you, one marked by support, by protection, by stability. There were people who promised to guide you, people who vowed to stand by you, people who assured you that your well-being was their priority. You were meant to receive what was owed, what was earned, what was rightfully yours. That was the design, the agreement, the script. But greed rewrote the story. Greed took the pen, crossed out chapters, inserted its own dialogue, replaced truth with deception. Greed made people shift. Greed made people forget. Greed made people betray. You weren't just overlooked. You were intentionally cut out. Not because you didn't deserve the role you were meant to play, but because someone saw opportunity in denying you. Someone saw gain in keeping you small. Someone saw advantage in making sure you stayed unaware, uninvolved, unprotected. They thought if they controlled the narrative, they could control the outcome. They thought if they took enough from you quietly, you would never notice the missing pieces. But the universe always keeps receipts. Spirit sees what human eyes try to hide. And the intentions that were once whispered in shadow are now echoing in the open. You were supposed to be taken care of. Not because of entitlement, not because of dependency, but because that was the ethical duty, the moral responsibility, the spiritual contract. Someone was entrusted with you. Someone was assigned a role in your life, to uplift, to guide, to support, to protect. But instead of fulfilling that role, they chose to distort it. They chose selfishness over responsibility. They chose manipulation over integrity. They chose personal benefit over spiritual alignment. And once greed took root, every decision they made became contaminated by it. Every interaction became strategic. Every gesture had a hidden agenda. Every conversation was layered with intention that had nothing to do with your well-being and everything to do with their own gain. You were written out of your own story by someone who wanted the spotlight for themselves. Someone who believed that if they took enough from you, their own life would expand. They didn't understand that stealing your blessing does not multiply theirs. They didn't understand that blocking your opportunities does not create more for them. They didn't understand that suppressing your rise does not elevate their position. Greed blinded them so deeply that they forgot the most fundamental rule of the universe. What is stolen carries a curse, and what is withheld returns multiplied. They tampered with what was meant to be yours. They rerouted resources. They redirected support. They interfered with guidance. They cut phone lines, literally or spiritually, so that your help never arrived. They intercepted blessings meant for you. They kept information away from you. They withheld documents, connections, conversations, opportunities. They convinced themselves that you were too naive, too uninformed, too distracted to ever realize what they were doing. They thought their strategy was airtight. They believed their secrecy was foolproof. They thought the universe would remain silent. But silence is not approval. Silence is the gathering of evidence. You were supposed to be taken care of. That statement alone carries layers of truth, truth that has been buried under years of distortion. There were people who were meant to nurture your potential, not drain it. People who were meant to encourage your path, not sabotage it. People who were meant to share with you, not hoard from you. People who were meant to defend you, not exploit you. But the moment greed entered the picture, the original plan was discarded, and a new narrative took its place. Greed rewrote the story in invisible ink, thinking the truth would never reappear. Greed told them they were smarter than fate. Greed fed them fantasies of invincibility. Greed whispered that they could get away with it forever. Greed convinced them that as long as they kept you in the dark, they could stay in the light. But now the invisible ink is revealing itself. The truth is resurfacing. The original script is being restored. And the one who rewrote the story is about to face the consequences of their edits. Because here's the spiritual reality they never accounted for. Your story was never theirs to rewrite. They were a character in your life, not the author of it. They were a participant, not the architect. They were assigned a role, but they were not given ownership over the narrative. And when a character attempts to hijack the plot, the universe steps in. The universe removes them from scenes. The universe exposes their motives. The universe dismantles the illusions they built. And the universe restores the storyline to its rightful alignment. You are stepping into a season where the truth is not just revealed, it is undeniable. The same hands that rewrote your story are now trembling. The same mouths that justified their actions are now falling silent. The same people who position themselves as protectors will soon be unmasked as perpetrators. And the most powerful part, you will rise without having to retaliate. Justice will unfold without any effort on your part. Divine order is correcting what greed distorted, and once divine correction begins, there is no stopping it. The person who was supposed to take care of you knows. They feel the unraveling. They feel the spiritual pressure. They feel the consequences approaching. They see coincidences that aren't coincidences. They hear conversations that weren't meant for their ears. They notice people distancing themselves. They sense that the energy they manipulated is boomeranging back. Their intuition is screaming, but they can't silence it. Their sleep is disturbed. Their confidence is cracking. Their control is slipping. Because greed has a life cycle. It starts with temptation, grows into desire, expands into manipulation, then mutates into fear. And now they are in the fear stage. Fear of exposure. Fear of accountability. Fear of loss. Fear of truth emerging. Fear of the plan failing. They never expected you to evolve. They never expected you to awaken. They never expected the universe to intervene. They never expected that the very thing they used to disempower you would be the thing that empowers your comeback. You were supposed to be taken care of. And you will be. The universe is restoring what was stolen, rebuilding what was ruined, returning what was withheld. You are stepping into a timeline where the original plan is being honored. Support is coming. Protection is forming. Opportunities are aligning. Resources are returning. Not in fragments, whole, complete, multiplied. Greed may have rewritten the story, but only temporarily. The pen has returned to divine hands. The plot is shifting in your favor. And the ending will not look anything like the version greed tried to create. That elder's passing wasn't natural. And deep down, in a place you rarely let yourself touch, you've always felt that truth vibrating under the surface like a bruise that never fully healed. You sensed it in the silence surrounding their final days. You sensed it in the tension that lingered in the air, in the strange behavior of certain family members, in the way no one could look you directly in the eye when you asked simple questions. You sensed it in the inconsistencies, the altered stories, the rushed decisions, the sudden excuses, the mysterious paperwork that appeared out of nowhere. Nothing about their departure felt aligned, peaceful, or organic. Their last breath carried weight, not the weight of age or illness, but the weight of sabotage. Something was off, and your spirit felt it before your mind could articulate it. There was deliberate neglect. Calculated. Timed. Someone had been waiting for the right moment, the right weakness, the right window where their interference would go unnoticed or be brushed off as fate, illness, or old age. But what they didn't realize was that the universe does not ignore malicious intention. The universe records every thought, every act, every omission, every silent choice. And the universe has been waiting for the right moment too, the moment to expose the truth you were never meant to see, the moment to vindicate both you and the elder who trusted the wrong person with their final chapter. You were not imagining it when you felt that tension rising in the room the last time you saw them. You were not imagining the discomfort on certain faces when the elder mentioned your name or your future. You were not imagining the subtle interference, the constant redirection, the controlling behavior around their medical decisions. Someone made choices that were not theirs to make. Someone withheld care that should have been given. Someone stood by as warning signs were ignored. Someone allowed suffering where healing was possible. They positioned themselves as the caretaker while carrying the mindset of a predator. They weaponized access. They manipulated trust. They saw vulnerability not as a responsibility but as an opening. They were waiting waiting for the moment when the elder was too weak to question, too tired to resist, too dependent to see the betrayal happening inches from their bedside. This passing wasn't a peaceful closing of a life well lived. It was the result of actions and inactions carefully arranged. Neglect is not always loud. Sometimes it is silent, wrapped in the illusion of caretaking. Sometimes it presents as forgetfulness, exhaustion, or mistakes. Sometimes it wears the face of concern, even love. But spiritual truth is not fooled by appearances. And what was allowed to happen to that elder was anything but accidental. There were decisions made intentionally. There were responsibilities abandoned intentionally. There were moments when help could have been called, treatment could have been administered, safeguards could have been put in place, and they weren't. Not because of ignorance, but because someone calculated that stepping back at the right moment could change the outcome of inheritance, ownership, access, and control. They believed that if they managed the elder's decline, they could manage their legacy. They believed that if they engineered the end, they could rewrite the beginning of their own financial future. And the moment they chose personal gain over human life, they shifted the karmic weight of the entire bloodline. This was not an ordinary betrayal. This was spiritual treason. This was violating the vulnerable, silencing the innocent, and manipulating divine timing as if they had authority over life and death itself. They thought no one would notice because the elder was aging. They thought the signs would be dismissed as natural decline. They thought medical professionals would overlook the inconsistencies. They thought the family would be too overwhelmed, too fragmented, or too trusting to question the narrative. They thought you, especially you, would be too disconnected from the situation to sense the truth. They underestimated the spiritual connection you carried with that elder. They underestimated the intuitive warnings you received. They underestimated the way your spirit would continue to pick up signals long after their physical departure. Because the bond you had with that elder was not biological, not circumstantial. It was ancestral. It was encoded. It did not end when their heartbeat stopped. If anything, it strengthened. Their spirit has been watching everything unfold. Their spirit saw what was done to them before they crossed over. Their spirit saw who stood by and who intervened. Their spirit saw the intentions behind every polite smile, every delegated task, every late-night whisper. And their spirit has been quietly guiding the unraveling. You were never meant to stay blind to this. You were never meant to carry the confusion without answers. You were never meant to accept the version of events other people tried to force onto you. You were meant to receive clarity, not just emotional clarity, but legal, spiritual, and cosmic clarity. What was done to this elder is now forming the foundation of a karmic correction so massive that every wrong turn, every deceitful act, every stolen opportunity is being rebalanced in real time. The timing of their passing was strategic not by divine plan but by human interference. The person responsible believed that aligning their actions with the elder's weakest moments would make detection impossible. They miscalculated. Because the universe does not expose wrongdoing on human schedules, it exposes wrongdoing when the consequences will have the greatest impact. And now, the truth is emerging with precision. Documents that were hidden are resurfacing. Witnesses who remained silent are remembering details. Conversations once forgotten are being recalled with clarity. Medical professionals are reconsidering their observations. Patterns are connecting. Evidence is forming not as isolated fragments but as a coherent narrative. And the person who once felt untouchable is starting to feel cornered. The neglect was deliberate. It was not a moment of oversight but a sequence of choices aimed at shaping an outcome. Someone wanted control of the elder's estate. Someone wanted access to finances. Someone wanted property or authority. Someone wanted to eliminate the elder's ability to protect or designate you. And instead of supporting them through their final days with love and dignity, they turned those days into a silent countdown, one only they knew was ticking. They pretended to be helpful, but behind the scenes, they were calculating what would happen once the elder was no longer here to speak, testify, or correct their lies. They believed that death would silence everything. But death does not silence truth, it amplifies it. And now that amplified truth is vibrating toward the surface of your life. You are not reliving the past, you are witnessing the unveiling. The fog is lifting. The illusions are collapsing. The narrative is shifting. You are stepping into a chapter where nothing hidden remains hidden. You are entering a season where the spiritual realm refuses to let injustice go unanswered. The elder who loved you is now a guardian, a witness, an intercessor. Their hands may not be here physically, but their energy is working through investigators, through officials, through unexpected allies, through intuitive revelations. Their alliances are crumbling. Their excuses are failing. Their composure is breaking. They are realizing, slowly, painfully, that the passing they engineered is becoming the event that exposes everything they tried to gain. You are walking into divine justice not with bitterness, but with alignment. You are stepping into truth not with fear, but with clarity. You are rising not because someone fought for you, but because the universe itself is correcting the imbalance. Nothing about this exposure is accidental. Nothing about this timing is random. Nothing about this revelation is coincidental. This is spiritual law correcting human wrongdoing. This is ancestral justice answering the cries of a soul who deserved better. This is the universe restoring the dignity that was denied, the inheritance that was stolen, the truth that was buried. And you, chosen one, are the one who will witness it all unfold, not because you sought vengeance, but because you carried truth within you long before anyone else dared to speak it. Someone inside their own home discovered the truth. And the irony is almost poetic when you look back on it. The very person your enemy trusted most, the one they believed they could deceive indefinitely, the one they assumed was blind to their scheming, became the silent witness who unraveled everything. This wasn't an outsider. This wasn't a stranger. This wasn't a distant observer looking in from afar. This was someone who lived under the same roof, someone who saw the small details others overlooked, someone who felt the energy shift before the evidence appeared. And this person didn't go searching for the truth revealed itself to them. It unfolded in front of them through patterns, inconsistencies, strange coincidences, emotional outbursts, secretive behavior, whispered phone calls, and late-night messages quickly hidden whenever footsteps approached. It showed itself through missing documents, altered papers, financial anomalies, and conversations that didn't match reality. It revealed itself through silence, because silence carries more evidence than words ever could. And once the truth appeared, it was impossible to ignore. This divine counterpart didn't confront them. They went straight to the authorities. And that single decision is what initiated the unraveling in the physical world, the legal world, the spiritual world. Because confrontation would have warned your enemy. Confrontation would have given them time to cover their tracks. Confrontation would have allowed them to manipulate the narrative, twist the story, gaslight the witness, and bury evidence deeper. But the divine counterpart was guided by intuition so strong it overpowered fear. They were moved by something higher than emotion. They were not reacting, they were obeying. Something in them said, "Don't argue. Don't reveal. Don't expose yourself. Observe. Document. Prepare. Then go where the truth cannot be silenced." And they listened. The moment they realized what was truly happening behind those walls, they understood that this was no longer a matter of family conflict or personal disagreement. This was criminal, spiritual, karmic, and deeply unjust. They understood that the only way to stop the cycle was to step outside the household and into the realm of accountability. This person had a front row seat to your enemy's duality. They watched them shift personas effortlessly. They saw how your enemy could play innocent in public yet move with malice in private. They observed the entitlement, the greed, the calculation, the coldness. They saw how your enemy spoke about you behind closed doors. The envy, the resentment, the bitterness, the obsession with controlling what belonged to you, the fear of your return, the fear of your awakening, the fear that one day the truth would surface. And the divine counterpart watched long enough to realize that everything your enemy did was intentional. Every choice had motive. Every omission had strategy. Every decision had consequence. They weren't dealing with carelessness. They were dealing with someone determined to gain power at any cost. And while your enemy assumed this partner was oblivious, distracted, or easily manipulated, they were quietly taking mental notes. They were watching patterns repeat. They were recognizing inconsistencies. They were connecting dots that your enemy never imagined anyone else could see. They began to recall moments from years ago that suddenly made sense. They remembered strange comments, unexplained anger, defensive reactions, secretive behavior around finances, sudden changes in lifestyle, unexplained deposits, and the discomfort your enemy always showed whenever the elder was mentioned. The divine counterpart began to realize they were living with someone who had built their life on deception. And once that awareness entered their consciousness, it could not be undone. The truth became a weight they could no longer carry alone. It became too heavy, too dark, too dangerous to leave buried. They understood that confronting your enemy would put them at risk, emotionally, psychologically, even physically. They also understood that confronting them would jeopardize the evidence. And so, they made a decision rooted not in fear, but in higher alignment. They took the truth to the one place where manipulation could not reach. They went straight to the authorities. They walked into an office, a station, or an agency with a calmness that hid the storm inside them. They sat down and told everything they had witnessed, not emotionally, not dramatically, but factually, structurally, chronologically. They handed over documents, timelines, messages, and patterns. They gave dates, names, behaviors, financial anomalies, medical inconsistencies. They gave what your enemy believed no one would ever reveal. They provided a narrative so detailed and coherent that investigators leaned forward, realizing they were not hearing speculation. They were hearing the truth that had been buried beneath layers of manipulation for years. This divine counterpart did not move out of vengeance. They didn't move out of anger. They didn't move out of spite. They moved out of spiritual responsibility. They knew that what happened to the elder was wrong on every level. They knew that what was stolen from you was sacred. They knew that the person they lived with had crossed moral boundaries so severe that silence became complicity. And they chose to break the cycle. They chose to disrupt the corruption. They chose to step into the light even if it meant standing alone. They became the unexpected hero of a story your enemy thought they had already won. They didn't know they were fulfilling prophecy. They didn't know they were acting as the universe's instrument. They didn't know they were carrying the voice of the ancestor who had been silenced. They didn't know they were aligning with your destiny. They didn't know they were stepping into divine purpose. But the moment they walked into that authority's office, they triggered a chain reaction that cannot be undone. Your enemy does not yet know how much this divine counterpart revealed. They may have sensed a shift. They may have felt their partner's energy withdraw. They may have noticed the silence. They may have observed the sudden emotional distance. They may have noticed changes in household routine. But they do not know the depth of what is unfolding behind the scenes. They do not know that the authorities already have a file. They do not know that the investigation has already begun. They do not know that their fate is already being sealed. Meanwhile, the divine counterpart has stepped into a different role, no longer the silent observer, but the quiet disruptor of generational injustice. They are cooperating fully. They are offering clarity where the case needs clarity. They are adding details investigators didn't know they needed. They are connecting pieces of a puzzle that professionals have been trying to assemble for months or even years. They are revealing secrets your enemy never planned for anyone to hear. And through them, divine justice is taking shape in the physical world. Their courage is why the truth will surface. Their discernment is why the illusion will collapse. Their obedience to intuition is why your enemy's timeline is closing. Their decision to step forward is why your breakthrough is approaching. Because the universe always uses an unexpected vessel. And in this story, the divine counterpart became the one who unlocked the gates of karmic justice. They didn't confront them. They went straight to the authorities. And that single act changed everything forever. You were chosen not for suffering, but for vindication. And this is the part they never understood about you. They saw your struggles, your losses, your betrayals, your broken chapters, and they assumed the universe had abandoned you. They mistook your pain for punishment. They misread your endurance as powerlessness. They assumed that because you were quiet, you were weak, and because you were hurting, you were forgotten. But chosen ones are not selected because life will be easy. They are selected because their story becomes the evidence of divine intervention. You were chosen not to drown in the injustice done to you, but to rise above it so profoundly that your elevation becomes a revelation to everyone who doubted you. Vindication is written into your destiny. Restoration is tattooed into your timeline. Justice is not a possibility for you, it is a guarantee. Your suffering was never the end of the story. It was only the setup for a reversal so dramatic that the same mouths that judged you will speak your name with awe. You were brought through darkness so you could be the living embodiment of what happens when divine timing meets divine protection. Every tear you shed became a seed. Every betrayal you endured became a blueprint. Every loss you carried became a necessary clearing for what is now rushing toward you. The universe was not punishing you, it was positioning you. You were chosen for the kind of justice that unfolds publicly, undeniably, irrefutably, where even those who never believed in spiritual law will be forced to acknowledge that something higher operates on your behalf. You were chosen so your life could become proof that no weapon formed truly prospers when the divine has claimed someone. You were chosen for restoration because what was taken from you did not disappear. It accumulated interest in the spiritual realm, and now it is returning multiplied. You were chosen so that when the truth surfaces, when the deception unravels, when the guilty face consequences, your rise will be the final confirmation that the universe never lost sight of you, not even for a moment. Your suffering was the dark soil where the seeds of your destiny rooted themselves. But your vindication, your restoration, your justice, that is the harvest. And that harvest is already sprouting around you whether you feel it yet or not. There is a shift happening in the unseen, a movement in the spiritual realm that is beginning to echo into your physical reality. You may feel it as uneasiness, or as sudden clarity, or as an instinct that change is approaching. But it is not just change, it is divine correction. It is the universe balancing the scales in your favor after years of imbalance. The truth is, you were not chosen to endure corruption, you were chosen to outlive it. You were not chosen to be silenced, you were chosen to expose.